Hey everyone, today I'm going to be showing you the best strategy to use in the Zaborg the Thunder Monarch raid in Cross Duel. Right, so I'm going to be taking you through the deck profile first of the Zaborg Raid. Then I'm going to be showing you a raid example where I've used this deck and how to play, what moves to do, etc, etc, etc. Right, so let's get into it. What should be your ace? Definitely Zed Metal Tank. Yes, the scourge of the ladder himself, Zed Metal Tank. The reason why this unit is so good and why you want this guy is twofold. One, you put him out in defense mode in the first turn. He has double cohesion. So, and again, if you do only have 2 slots, you can do this with just 1 cohesion, 1 destruction. But it's definitely better to get 2. And if you don't have that second slot, you can go to customization, you can click on the plus here, and you can trade cards to get that final slot unlocked for Zed Metal Tank, if you have the spare duplicates. But again, the reason why he's so good, I have actually tested this deck without him. I've tested this deck having Trickstar Holy Angel or Elemental Hero Neos as the ace. However, when you have those cards as the ace, you have to include a few more destruction negation cards, because one of the main things the boss can do is he can use an ability that will destroy all monsters in the main lanes where he sends out his raid monsters. I mean, if you don't have an anti-destruction unit, you're going to take an extra 1,100 points of damage. And that is something that you really cannot do in this raid, because at the higher levels, he's going to be doing 2,000 damage a turn against you. So the advantage of having in Zed Metal Tank is you really don't need to worry about having in really any other destruction negation units, because this one is all you need. Then you can just focus on having all of your units about destroying objects, and that's exactly what we're doing here. Not only does Zed Metal Tank protect the middle, but again, because of double cohesion, every time you're summoning a monster, he's gaining 400 attack and defense, which generally means throughout the entire raid, he can block 3, 4, sometimes even 5 raid monsters being sent at him. And then when you do finally destroy all the objects, you just switch him to attack mode, and he has 4,000 to 5,000 attack points, at which point you will easily get down the remaining parts of his health. So, the deck profile is actually very simple. Just include every single card you have that has anti-object. And I don't think, like, even myself, fortunately most of them are rares, but even myself, I don't have all of the anti-object cards. I don't have all the copies of Backup Secretary or Time Wizard, for example, that that work well with this. One thing you can do, if you have 2 copies of Gagaga Magician, you can also include that with its reincarnation skill and immunity to negation skill, so it just basically keeps coming back every single turn. But anyway, let's quickly go over some of the key cards of this deck profile. Elemental Hero Neos and Trickstar Holy Angel. So for Elemental Hero Neos, we really don't care about damage, because every time we destroy one of the objects, it's going to deal 10,000 damage to the boss. And there's a special rule in this raid where level 5 and 6 monsters get an additional skill, which is 1 object destruction. Level 7 or higher get 2 object destruction. So this makes Elemental Hero Neos really good, because he's basically a 1 sacrifice monster that comes back to your hand, and he has double object negation. Meaning that if you draw him, even if you draw a monster that only has 1, say you draw a monster that doesn't have any, like for example this one here that I have in the deck, you can just use them as sacrifices to get out Elemental Hero Neos, and immediately the first monster you play each round that doesn't have any anti-object support skills will essentially have 2. And that's kind of the same reason why I have Trickstar Holy Angel in, because her special skill here is when destroyed or when assist healing, she returns to your hand, which means, again, like Neos, you can just summon her again and again and again, and she's already going to get a +1 to object destruction, not to mention she already has object destruction, so she's another really, really good fit to have in the raid deck if you have her. And again, even if you don't have any of her other slots unlocked, and you just get the SP one where she returns to your hand, She is, at the very least, going to be one object destruction, meaning that if you have monsters in your deck that don't have any object destruction, she is at least better to sacrifice them and throw her down. So that's the reason why we have these two in. And then after that, it really is just include every single monster you have with object destruction. I think the main three here are like the Ojamas. I have seen people use the Ojamas with 2 object destructions and a reincarnation, because that way they go down the lane, they do 3 damage to the object, they come back to your hand, and you can use them as a sacrifice on the next turn. So if you are like low on resources, that is something you can do. And again, if you are close to getting a like 3rd slot for these cards, so for example, you need, I believe you need 10 copies of the card to get a final slot. This one I only have 3. But the other 2 Ojamas, I had 8 and I had 9. So what I did is I just did trade cards, got that 3rd slot, and it makes a real difference. The more monsters, the more like rare monsters you can have with, you know, 3 object negation skills, the better, because the faster you can get them down, and you'll see this in the raid when we get to the raid, the faster you can get down at least 1 object, the better. The other interesting pick to have in is Vice Dragon. So Vice Dragon, with its speedy summon, you can actually summon this card without a tribute. And because it's a level 5, it automatically gets 1 anti-object skill added to it. If you don't have enough monsters to fill out the anti-object roster, I would add in some assist boost monsters, or monsters that give you the healer skill. Like I mentioned before, the boss is going to do 2,000 a turn to you. So if you can boost up your health just a little bit with the healer skill, that will put you just above the threshold where you can survive 1 extra turn. And when you do finally get down at least 1 object and your monsters start getting through, you can start putting down those monsters with assist heal down there to hopefully get out your life points to survive more turns. Now, you may think this is a lot of skills, but what I will say is the deck you're seeing here has been able to fairly easily beat the level 23 Zaborg, which we're going to show you later. Now, we do have, everyone else in that duel does have some pretty good cards, but none of it is perfect. You don't need 3 skills and absolutely everything to get through. I think the thing to do is just do what you have, see if it's good enough, and then slowly improve from there to see what you can do in the raid. Going on to spells, we only have 2 spells in this deck, and really there's only about 3 that you would even want. So one, pretty obvious, Gravity at Scroll. Gives a monster anti-object ×2. We'll talk more about that when we get into the raid. And the other one here, Machine Duplication. So the idea of Machine Duplication is you can use this after the boss has done its destruction ability down the lane, summoning a Z metal tank on each lane. What's that going to do? It's going to do 1 damage to each object. And in the event that you only have 1 object, it's going to do 1 damage to 1, and you're going to get like an assist heal on the other side. So you can kind of think of this card as a 2 object destruction card, or like a monster with 1 object destruction, except it's split between both lanes. If you have enough object destruction monsters, you don't necessarily need to put this in, but it's still a good nice card to have in. You do not want any of the cards that give bonus damage. You really do not want even Butterfly Dagger Elmer or anything like that, right? If you have Z Metal Tank, you're going to have far more than enough damage to beat the boss at the end. So you really don't, and destroying objects, damage doesn't matter. So you really don't want any cards that like boost attack or anything like that. The only other spell I would include is Rod of Silence, which gives a boost to assist heal, and possibly, depending on, again, I've never needed this with Z Metal Tank, but depending on the way you have up your deck, or if you can't afford to have 3 slots or anything like that on Z Metal Tank, having a shield handler is also nice, because then if you do need to throw a monster in the center lane when the opponent is going to, or when the raid boss is going to destroy all the monsters in the center lane, you can just throw down this card and it will defend your monster. Right, so with all that being said, let's get into the raid. So I am going to be showing this raid at 200% speed because there is a lot of like downtime in between turns and the boss taking its time to do things. So key thing to note here, the boss has used a skill which is going to destroy the monster with the most skills that is on the field. And if there's multiple monsters with those skills, then it's a tie, and he will just choose one randomly. This is the reason why I didn't put Zed Melt Tank down on the first turn. But one way to get around this, and what I have seen a lot of players do, as you'll see here, is my teammate to the left is actually playing a monster that has 4 skill slots. Now that's pretty difficult to do without spending a fair amount of money in the game, or at least trading away all of your duplicates to get some of the monsters that can do this. But he's playing one with 4 skill slots, which is basically going to act as a bait for this skill. And a monster that's actually really, really good to do this with are the Ojamas, because you can have 3 object negations with them, or 3 object destructions, and a reincarnation. And even though they get reincarnated with all of their skills negated, they still count as having 4 skills at that point. So you can use an Ojama, let it come back to your hand, and then just hold it for when Zaborg is going to do one of these skills. And it's just a brilliant way of like baiting him out, like not having to hold back any of your good cards and being able to bait him out to destroy this like one monster. So one of the tactics as well that you want to do during a raid is try to destroy one of the lowest, destroy the lowest possible objects as quickly as possible. Now, I am putting my object destruction free to the right here, but that's more of a decision based on who my teammates are and what I know them to have in their decks and the quality of monsters and everything. So, if you, for example, if I had completely equal teammates on either side, I would definitely have put the higher object destruction on the left to get rid of that object as quickly as possible, so that you can reduce Zaborg's attack power, which is what happens when 2 of the 4 objects are destroyed, and start getting through monsters to assist heal you. Because at the moment, this raid is essentially a race against the clock. He's doing 2,000 damage a turn, so we basically have 4 turns to destroy 2 of the 4 objects that are on the field. Because if we don't do that in 4 turns, he wins. If we do that in 4 turns, then we'll be left with 1,000 life points, and we can start to come back.
It's the main phase of the 3rd turn.
So the skill he's just played now isn't too much of a bad one. It's if you send a level 2 or lower monster down that lane, you'll take 500 damage. Now this skill can be kind of annoying when you're playing with computers, because they just don't care. They will just send whatever monster down that lane. But if you have in all of the objects, destroying cards, then this isn't too bad of a skill. You're usually going to be able to put out a level 3 or higher. Especially if you have Neos in your deck, or Trickstar Holy Angel. They will keep on coming back to your hands if you have the right skills in them, so you should most of the time just be able to avoid this skill with relative ease.
Full speed ahead.
And as you can see, we've destroyed the object in the bottom left now. Now, if you do take until Battle Phase 4 to destroy that object, it is key that you leave those monsters go in there to heal yourself, because if this does get to Battle Phase 4, and you just managed to destroy 2 in Battle Phase 4, the boss is going to put you down to 2,000, or the boss is going to put you down to essentially 1,000, but on the next turn he'll be able to kill you unless you've actually got in some healing. And here, as you can see, we're in actually a kind of a tight position, because he's done the Lightning Vortex, which destroys cards on the lanes either side. So the monsters that we were going to be able to send down to heal us are now no longer going to be able to heal us. So I have included 1 or 2 monsters in my deck that just heal upon summon, which is to hopefully put us over that threshold. So for example now, if we were to take 2,000 this turn, we would at least be over that threshold where we could survive. And the reason why I've got it in defense mode is, as you can see, I've got Trickstar Holy Angel in my hand, and I'd rather sacrifice it on the next turn and do 4 object destruction damage or something than just use it and only do 1. And I know I still have Elemental Hero Neos and a spell card in my deck, which could be dud draws on the next turn. So that's why I've kept it in my hand in this, why I've put it in defense mode in this instance. So the good thing is here, we did manage to get down 2 of the objects. which means the boss's attack is going to be halved. Well, the boss's damage on us, I should say, is going to be halved. But he is going to summon an extra raid monster every turn now. As you can see here, he summons one now in front as well as behind. So this is where the Z metal tanks are really good, because once you do get to this point, and oh, as you can see here, I did in fact draw a dud card,
But stay alert.
which is why it was a good thing I kept my monster in defense mode.
Are you ready?
Right, so I didn't summon my Trickstar Holy Angel here because of the boss's skill, where he would destroy something with the most skills, and my Trickstar Holy Angel has 4. The Ojama, this is a clear thing of the best way to use the Ojama. As you can see, it had 4 skills, though negated skills, so that was why that card got destroyed.
So, you're taking a wait-and-see approach.
So with this, we have just finished turn 5, and we have 2 objects, one with 2, one with 1 left, so we should easily be able to clean up the boss on the next turn, and I didn't even need to use my Trickstar Holy Angel. But this has been in part thanks to having such great teammates in this raid.
Let's see if you can work a miracle.
Ooh, so this is a tough one. So the boss has put down this lightning storm on those 2 lanes, which means they might not be able to destroy that final object on this turn. And one thing to note here, even though we don't really have any objects left to destroy this turn, I'm still trying to summon as many monsters as I can. This is not necessarily to heal, this is just to buff up Z Metal Tank as much as possible for that final blow. And we can see machine duplication here being used to good effect, where he now has a machine on the left which has managed to evade the lightning vortex and is going to do 1 point of damage to that object, and a machine on the right that will eventually give us an assist heal. And despite that skill happening, they actually managed to destroy the object, which was really good. Alright, and now that we've destroyed all the objects, the boss has taken 40,000 points of damage, 10,000 from each object, and we are free to attack him in his weak point.
We know all your weaknesses.
Now, I'm playing both my monsters here because 1, we don't need to heal, and 2, for every monster I play, Z Metal Tank will go up by 400 attack and defense, so I'm just basically getting out as much attack and defense as I can from Z Metal Tank, even though it won't really be needed at this point. But, you know, there may be situations where it is needed, so I'm just trying to kind of get in that habit of doing that.
Enter the battle phase. What will you do?
Right, and there you have it. Healing 2,500 in the final turn and taking out the boss.
Oh well.
There you go. That was Zaborg the Thunder Monarch, level 23.
You never cease to amaze.